So today I would be talking about Paul Graham's essay I read. So when I read that essay, one idea that keeps coming up is that the idea and the advice to do what you love is often misunderstood. He explained that this question cannot be answered in isolation. It only makes sense when we ask, do what you love instead of what. Most people are really choosing between work that genuinely interests them and work that feels practical, safe, or well paid. If someone's main goal is to earn a stable, moderate income, Paul Graham argues that they often cannot work to purely cannot afford to purely work on what they love because people pay you for doing things what they want, not for doing things which you want. This is why many people end up in jobs that seem sensible but feel empty. However, he also makes it clear that this is this does not mean interest is irrelevant. In fact, interest becomes extremely powerful when it overlaps with something valuable and rare. Paul Graham gives example of people who enjoy work at most others avoid that most others avoid, but that the world strongly needs. These people have an advantage because they are willing to spend time on problems that they find boring or frustrating. Over time, this leads to deeper skill and better outcomes. In these cases, following what you enjoy is not a weakness but a strength. He then talks about an important exception that almost reverses the earlier advice. If your goal is not to just make a comfortable living but to do great or build something new, then working on what genuinely interests you become almost necessary. Many successful startups did not begin as serious attempts to make money. They began as side projects, experiments, or tools that the founders built for themselves. The reason this happens so often is that the best idea usually looks small, strange, or unimportant at the beginning. If you were deliberately trying to think of a way to make money, you would probably ignore them. Another theme he returns to is uncertainty. When people feel stuck about what to work on, he says it is rarely because the options are perfectly balanced. More often, it is because they lack information. People usually do not know what truly makes them happy, what different kinds of work are actually like day to day, or how good they could become if they committed to something. This ignorance makes decisions feel overwhelming. The solution, he argues, is not endlessly thinking, but experimentation. Trying things gives you real feedback about interests, abilities, and potential. He also emphasizes starting early. You do not need permission, credential, or formal job to begin working on something. Many fields allow you to explore by building projects, writing, learning, and or creating your own. Because figuring out what to work on can take years. Delaying this exploration only makes it harder. The earlier you start experimenting, the more time you have to adjust your direction as you learn more about yourself. Another idea that stood out to me is his point about people you work with. Paul Graham says that choosing a kind of work also means choosing the people around you. Oh, and over time, you become like them. If you choose work mainly for money, you will likely be surrounded by others who made the same choice, which can make the work feel even more draining. But but if you choose work you genuinely care about, you are more likely to be surrounded by curious and motivated people. This kind of environment quietly raises your standards and improves how you think. Finally, Paul Graham argues that although interest alone does not guarantee success, it almost always present in great work. It is almost always present in great work. People who do exceptional things usually have a deep curiosity that pushes them beyond what is required. This curiosity cannot be forced through discipline alone. Without it, it becomes extremely difficult to sustain the long periods of focused efforts that original and meaningful work demands. For anyone who wants to do great work, the complicated question of whether to work on what they love becomes much simpler. In that case, the answer is yes.